Welcome to episode 5 of Eternal Horizons, a Magic the Gathering podcast where we look out on the legacy format and beyond. My name is Jasper Murison Bowie, or just Jasper, and I'm here with my good friend Francis Cooper, aka FGC. How's it going, Francis?
I'm doing well, thank you, Jasper. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks, yeah. Recovering from a fractured elbow at the moment, which is very tedious, so we're not going to linger on it, but there we are. Today, we're going to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of all things, because it's a Magic set as well as a cartoon and a movie and whatever else it is, comics, obviously. But it's a Magic set that's coming out in a couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about it. Plus, I went to a European Legacy Masters qualifier a couple of days ago, and we're going to talk about how that went. But first, I want to ask you, what have you been up to in terms of Magic lately?
I've played a little Magic since we last spoke a couple of weeks ago. So I've played 3 paper events, I played 2 weeklies, and I played a London Legacy bi-monthly event.
Mm-hmm.
None of which have gone particularly spectacularly, but I have had a great time. So I played some Blue Dredge, the Mahfouz Van Gogh, I don't know if I want to say signature deck, but it's definitely his concept. He plays a bunch of different sorts of builds of Dredge, but this, I think, came from his mind, where you're playing like no LEDs and you're playing Force of Will, and you're playing like usually a slower, grindier, like more resilient plan, again, based around Cephaly Coliseum. But I was playing like the Satoru Dread Return Kill, which people can look up how that works. But
it's a cool line. It's a cool way to end a game of Magic. The first time, probably.
It's very. I find it very satisfying to play, and
yeah.
I like the game style that it generates. You're a little slower, but I find that fun. But unfortunately, I paired into 2 Elvish Reclaimer decks, which really isn't where you want to be. That's pretty bad.
No, that is very bad.
Yeah, I took a game off each of them, but I ended up 2-2. And then I played Miracles, like classic. I played 4 Terminus at the LLM, and that was also
what
pretty
year is it?
Mid. It's 2026, sorry, not 2016.
Yes.
And I thought it could be quite well positioned because of all the aforementioned Elvish Reclaimer decks. And at previous iterations of this event, there was a lot of energy and Cradle, and I was thinking, I will turn up and play my Terminus or Termini, and
Terminis?
Could be. I'm not sure. Jamie will know the root of Terminus.
Termina.
I'm sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. But didn't go quite to plan. I sort of was conceding that I might lose to Eldrazi, which is very popular, which I did. And that was fine. I sort of thought that would happen. But I did also lose to Energy. Unfortunately, I just Terminus them and then they killed me 2 turns later, which was quite difficult. And I think I might have misplayed there. So that wasn't particularly satisfying. But my opponent, Brian, played very well. I think I ended up sort of 3-3, if I remember correctly. I did happen to play against 2 people who never played against Terminus before, which...
oh, dear.
That was particularly fun.
It's not super intuitive, the way that you cast it.
Oh, yeah, well, obviously, the first person who I played against, they were on Stifle Naught. I put the trigger on the stack in their turn. And they were like, you can play that as an instant. And I was like, well, I think most of the time you're playing this as an instant if you're playing it for 1 mana. In fact, if not all the time.
Since it's, yeah.
But that is really not intuitive. So, but like, I think that what that says is that there's quite a lot of fresher legacy players in the group at the moment.
Which is great.
And that's great. Yeah, I'm very happy about that. That's a really good thing. And I'm very happy that people, coming back time and time again to play Legacy that are new. But the other player who I played against, who not played against Terminus, did Badgermole Cub their only green source, which normally is fine, because it just, even if it gets exiled, it goes back into play. But if it goes on the bottom of the library, then there's nothing left, which happened.
You're so rude, Francis. Did you know that?
Yeah, that was rude. But I didn't do particularly well, but I had fun. I have a long storied history with those cards, and I very much love them.
So, would you say that it's once again the temporary end of the road for your Termini now again, or are you gonna play them again soon?
Are you referring to reaching the terminus of the deck? I will certainly pick them up again at another point, I'm sure. But I think another thing that I've learned is that my gameplay preferences are different to what they once were. So I think maybe at one point I rather reluctantly moved away from playing these sorts of hard control lock decks, which, as Miracles once was, to more proactive, fragile combo decks like Breakfast and Dredge and now Painter and Doomsday, all of which I've, well, apart from Painter, I would say I've played quite a lot of, especially Doomsday and Breakfast I've played a lot of. But now going back to playing Miracles, I can sort of, the game is less deep when you are doing that. I think you have, or for me at least, I feel like I shortcut so many decisions so that you can think about like when exactly you want to terminus or how you want to stack up your counterbalance. But it means that your whole game is like tread water and compress, and the decisions are sort of always the same. And that is not as exciting for me anymore. At least it's a bit abstract. I just didn't engage with it as well as I used to, and I found it a little bit dull.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I guess there is something linear about control decks in that they're trying to drag the game out until the opponent runs out of stuff and then they win. However, I mean, I think like pure hard control, as you might see it in, say, pre-modern, where it's literally just like decree as a kill and that's it or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the gameplay there is quite linear. I think you're right. So it sort of makes sense.
It is, yeah.
You're finding it less interesting now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very used to playing these like hybrid as a saga or alternative threat. Like I'm playing Mok'Tide Region and Doomsday or whatever. Like, and you're choosing your plan and using your cantrips to like next level your opponent in that way, as opposed to next level them by stacking your counterbalance. But
sure,
it's my preferences are different, and I think Painter is part of that. Like I really have enjoyed playing that recently, and it fulfills those sorts of games. So, which was the other deck I've played recently. I played a like red-based version as opposed to a blue-based version of like Welder Pinnacle Emissary, which I want to say we both came to of our own mental pathways.
Yeah, I think so. We've always been talking a lot about Painter, and we were talking about the repurposing bay thing, and I think Pinnacle Emissary was in that, or in some builds of it, and then it was like, okay, well, maybe this works, because obviously it's a hybrid card, maybe this works in a red-based thing. That's certainly how I thought about it, and then I think we just started talking about it, and went from there, and both started constructing lists.
Yeah.
And you've played that locally, and I've played that online.
Yeah, and I think you had some great points about the mana base and how we didn't need quite so many blue sources and whatnot. And to be honest, I think my list ended up basically being what you shared, or very close to that. I liked it a lot. So you had a very like artifact dense game plan, which is not necessarily the normal red Painter strategy of late, where you're playing like lots of fables and spirit guides. This was like full Mox Opal, full Lotus Petal, full Pinnacle Emissary. You're playing, I would think it was only 2 artifact lands, 2 Great Furnace, but you had like very, very explosive openers with Emissary and constructs, and your welders are really, really strong. Like if you draw 2 welders and they are not interacted with, you can always have an artifact basically to weld something big in on turn 2. I was actually, a big difference between my list and your list is that I was playing a coveted jewel to like go really fast if I wanted to, which I think is maybe more fun than good. It's difficult to say. I think I mean, I know you have your opinions about this, but I think I will keep trying that. But
it seems sweet. I'm definitely down to try it. I think as you were talking, I was remembering where I kind of came to the idea of Pinnacle Emissary from, which was that I think I used the phrase last episode that I've been very welder pilled recently, i.e. that I've been just wanting to play loads of welder, I've been playing it in pre-modern, etc., etc. And then I was like, well, how do you construct a red Painter deck to be a really good welder deck? Because I think that for a good while now, like you said, the red Painter builds have minimized the number of artifacts to reduce exposure to things like Meltdown and Null Rod. And I was curious to see what it looked like if you tried to make a Mox Opal mana base that lets your welders be better, and Pinnacle Emissary works really well, obviously, with Mox Opal, and is also just an independently powerful card. Like it lets you go wide with artifact tokens, which is great with your goblins, and is generically powerful as well. So I think it's a great welder deck in a way that I think the normal red painter builds, welder is a sort of maybe a C plan rather than an A or a B plan.
As a person who's played against painter a lot, welder can be extremely scary on turn 1, right?
Yeah.
But over time, I've ended up sort of more and more letting it survive until there is an artifact on the stack. Like, the only punish there is Great Furnace, but even that is being cut more and more from 2 to 1 to 0 copies, and like it's not awfully likely that that's what's going to happen. And it means that, you know, you can save your force or your Swords to Plowshares or whatever quite often for something else.
Which is interesting in the context of TMNT, but we'll come on to that later. It's funny that obviously Welder, we'll be talking more about Welder later, let's just put it that way. But I like this list, and I played it online. I think I went 3-2 and 4-1 or something like that. So overall pretty good. Didn't pick up a trophy with it, but also only played 2 leagues with it. And then I ended up playing, when we went to last week's local, we were both playing painter, but I was playing a more traditional build because I thought that I would be unlikely to play the Pinnacle Emissary build at the ELM qualifier that I played over the weekend. And I wanted to just get some prep in with a list closer to the sort of stock, maybe more mid-rangey painter, as I think you've described it.
Well, yeah. I think I do feel like that, though. I think you might have some distaste for that moniker.
I think it's correct, though. I do think that is like accurate, even though, you know, there are ways to construct. There are ways to construct it. I think, you know, I was thinking about this where, you know, Fable is quite a mid-rangey card, but you're still, I mean, the deck that I registered at the ELM qualifier, for example, had Lion's Eye Diamond in it, which is clearly not a mid-range card. So, you know, it's bits of both.
It's unfair to call it a mid-range deck, but on the spectrum of Painter Servant decks, I think it is that way inclined. Like, you play a lot of games with, like, oh, I want to lightning bolt your creature and get value off this Fable of the Mirror Breaker and force you to use your removal, and I want to kill your creatures and, like, get card advantage. And then you can be the beatdown, but you can also be the control deck. I would assume that all painter decks are a combo deck, but in that spectrum, it's
for sure
over there.
Whereas the Pinnacle Emissary build, obviously, we went down to 19 lands, and you just can't really justify playing Fable and Pinnacle Emissary in the same deck. It just seems too awkward, since, you know, they're not synergistic in really any way.
You're now making me think about what painter control looks like, which I don't know what that actually looks like. But yeah, I suppose we could go into more depth on what you did play at the ELMQ, if you'd like to.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we talked quite a lot about that. You were sort of helping me put together a list. We were talking about potential metas and how to construct a list to address that, because I've been testing a few different lists across the spectrum, from like I think the list that I played at the local didn't even have Lava Spur boots in it. So it was very kind of like, let's combo. It did have Arena of Glory for the goblins, but obviously that doesn't open up the construct lines in the same way. So I definitely missed that. So the lesson there was like, I went 3-1 at the local. So that was, in fact, we played a Painter Mirror in the final round of that, which was a very short match, I seem to recall.
It was enlightening. I learned a lot. We had a lot of useful discussion and conversation. I think I'd like to play more Painter Mirrors with you.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'm always down for that. I think that there are lots of schools of thought as to how to approach it, and I feel reasonably strongly that the idea of cutting, like trying to not play the combo, is a mistake. but maybe we'll talk more about painted mirrors when we've played a few more of them, because I just think I was really favored in that particular match that we played, because I had main deck Lightning Bolt and Fury, and you didn't have either of those things, so it was just really difficult for you to interact with.
Yeah, I think
my painter servant. So
yeah, you're right. I think also the thing that was mostly making it difficult for me to interact with your painter servant was Welder. So I think you'd mulligan to 5 and seemed to have exactly Welder, painter servant, grindstone, and 2 lands or
correct.
Something.
That is what I kept.
And my hand was very aggressive with a Pinnacle Emissary, but I couldn't interact, and I ended up drawing a second painter or something in my hand, which I couldn't play because you had a grindstone.
Yeah.
So it was that game was very close, but it felt very non-interactive. Basically,
yes.
We couldn't do anything, or I couldn't do anything, and you ended up with 2 welders, and I had 1 welder. That was tricky. So but I think in theory, wanting lightning bolts in the mirror makes sense. I think also because I didn't have bolts, I wanted to keep in some blasts so that some portion of the time I would be able to interact with you. Maybe that was or wasn't correct. My sideboard wasn't built to cut all my blasts at any point.
Sure. Yeah.
So that made that tricky. I don't know. I think also perhaps my posture should be even more aggressive, and maybe I want to keep in more blasts and try and have a fast combo with blast protection and use that to stop your pieces. So it's not.
Yeah, because you had LED as well, which I didn't have in that particular build.
Yeah.
So you definitely had an angle on speed. Also because when you're playing Mox Opal, I mean, this build was 4 Opal, 4 Petal, which means that the chances of you getting to go Painter plus Grindstone on turn 1 are a bit bigger, because you can make 3 mana on turn 1 with a bunch of artifacts and so on. So yeah, it's interesting. In any case, we talked about what we were sort of anticipating for the ELM qualifier, and as it happens, it didn't really pan out maybe the way that we were expecting, as far as certainly not my matchup spread. But to sum up, I felt that I wanted to just I didn't feel like I'd had quite enough time to get the Pinnacle Emissary list to a place where I was super happy with it. And I think my main concern with it is that if there's a lot of Tamiyo around, then Pinnacle Emissary is obviously worse. And if you commit to a fair plan against something that's unfair, or the sort of beat down drone plan against something that's unfair, you can overextend into a line that wins you the game in 1 or 2 turns rather than now. And then, you've used your explosiveness in a direction that isn't quite as potent, maybe, even though I think the card is strong. And obviously the constructs and stuff are huge. And I think that it's an angle. I definitely want to play more with the card in various builds. But anyway, so that was his rationale. And we thought, for various reasons, that obviously Blue-Black Tempo, best deck in the format. I was expecting around 50 people for the event. I mean, in the end, there were 38, but decent size, sort of a monthly sized event, I would say, for London standards. It was in Bath. I took the train out. And it was a really nice event. We thought that, Blue-Black Tempo, being a proxy-friendly event, would be the most popular archetype, which actually it was, looking at the meta. But we also thought that Cradle Control and Energy would be quite popular. You have played a fair bit in the Southwest, and creature decks, I hear, are popular. And there was a Cradle Control player, and there was... I think there was 1 D&T player. No, 2 D&T players.
I think it surprised me how little there was. Historically, I think I can see the faces of the people who would be playing the Cradle and Elves and Death and Taxes decks, and other fair creature-based strategies. And maybe those people didn't attend the event. That might be how it goes.
Yeah,
but my
sure.
expectation, generally would be, especially that those people would be there regardless of the metagame. And then on top of that, I was sort of thinking, well, people know Dimir is very popular, and these decks, I would say, are favored versus Dimir.
Yeah.
I think that they are good choices for these sorts of events, playing these sorts of decks.
Yeah, D&T Energy Cradle should all probably beat Dimir on average.
Yeah, and I think that they also have defensible matchups against most fields. as on top of that. So I think that especially when we're not playing online, right, which is something that else we'll get to, not playing online means I think there's less consideration towards people playing, laundry decks.
Oops, all spells?
Laundry decks. Yeah, laundry. Yeah, Oops, all spells fits that category, but decks that people play because they don't actually want to play Magic, but they do have time to click through a few rounds of a challenge. People, I don't think, usually will want to play those on their weekend trip with their friends to a place where they're going to spend a day playing Magic. But turns out that I'm entirely wrong, and that is what people like doing at their time. Which nothing against them, I suppose, for that. Though you might have some reasons for that.
I mean, I don't know. So I think there were. I mean, when I looked at the event deck lists, there was one missing deck list, but other than that, they were all published after the event, which is cool. We like to see that. And there were at least 3 players on Oops All Spells at this event, if not 4. People in the room were saying, "Oh, there's a 4th Oops player," which makes me think that maybe that's the deck list that hasn't been published, or one of the 2 deck lists hasn't been published. The other consideration that we had was that we didn't think there'd be very much graveyard going on between Oops putatively not being popular and Dredge not being in a particularly good spot right now. Just
isn't a reanimator deck to speak of that is very popular. Like, you can play Demir Reanimator, you could play Turbo Mono Black or Black Red or something, but like, if you went into an event saying, "I'm going to play this deck because it's really good against those decks," I'd be like, "Well, you're mad. That's not a useful decision tree." Yeah.
And Breakfast also at a pretty low ebb at the moment. I think you were like, only one person in the world plays Breakfast at the moment.
I think it's like, I don't even know if that's true.
No. I'm not. It's anyway.
It's a very low number of people. Yeah. And I also think that you can beat Breakfast without having Graveyard Hate.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's true. So, I think that is true. But so yeah, there were 3 or 4 Oops players. There were a couple of Forge players. There were a couple of Breakfast players. There were a couple of Ruby Storm players. There was a Dredge player, who I'll come on to in a sec. And there was a Reanimator player as well, who top 8'd. But the list that we came to, just to sort of conclude that thought, was one where, we made concessions to the expected creature sort of meta by playing a couple of main deck Fury, a couple of main deck Lightning Bolt, and just constructing a list around that. And then also because of what I like to do and the things that I like to have access to, and sort of as a hedge, I suppose, still playing the Lion's Eye Diamond as well, just to have that extra bit of speed in certain matchups. And because it does tend to catch people unawares still when you can, say, get an LED off a Saga, that sort of thing. And then the sideboard, which I think is where we sort of discussed the meta most, I ended up on 3 Blood Moon, 3 Disruptor Flute, 2 Fury, 2 Khan the Great Creator, 3 Mindbreak Trap, and 2 Untimely Malfunction. And that's a pretty good spread of stuff, but it's very notably absent any graveyard hate, because I think it was a reasonable enough thing to just assume, okay, there probably isn't going to be that much. So, and it probably, even if there is, it probably won't do that well because of, like the meta that you experienced where you played against a bunch of Elvish Reclaimer. It's tough to get to the top tables playing graveyard combo in that kind of environment.
I think also notably, this is how personally I always have, well, always, but maybe for the last 8-10 years, if I'm approaching a tournament in a specific metagame, this is how I will build my deck. Especially if I'm not playing cantrips. Usually I play like Brainstorm and Ponder, but like, even if I am doing that, I will lean like deck choice and deck construction towards, I want to build these decks. For example, the ELMQ that we played in London last year, I was like, okay, I think people are going to play Moonstomping. I think people are going to play Sneak and Show. Yeah. And like, those were, I think, the 2 biggest decks in the room. And my whole deck was constructed to beat them. And like, you can get really paid off for doing it. And
absolutely.
I guess if you don't do that, you're kind of, I don't know, hoping to get lucky and draw your bullets in the matchups where they come up. But you have information ahead of time and you can try and adjust towards it.
Yeah, I like, particularly when it comes to sideboard disruption, I like constructing sideboards that play a good number of high impact cards for matchups that I think can be swung enough by those cards, if that makes sense. I want to play cards that I can side in sufficient numbers that I can hope to draw them across a couple of games, and that will give me a good chance at bridging a gap between a matchup that, there's no point bringing like a one of that will make a 45 into a 48 or whatever. I'd rather bring some bigger haymaker cards to try and address some potential weaknesses in deck construction. And then particularly in a non-blue deck, I want to bring enough of them that I can expect to see them, because you just don't play enough rounds for that to you can't make use of averages or anything like that. You just have to try and get those effects in the board.
Yeah. So I think what we did also, the list you described, like leans into the strengths of that mid-range-esque variant. So you're playing 2 Fury and 3 Bolts, and you have more Furies later, so you're really like capitalizing on that. I'd like to beat decks that are trying to play creatures onto the board. But then you also have like a reasonable amount of combo hate, disruption in the sideboard, and also like the Khans for Mystic Forge, which is like still a reasonably popular deck, and I think a very, very good deck. So that sort of thing. So you're leaning into the strength, I suppose, of the type of build, and then you're packing quite a lot of hate for the matchups that you think, 1, you're not favored against, and 2, might be played. So that all made sense to me.
Yeah, it all made sense to me as well. And obviously what happened next was that I sat down for round 1 and got paired into the Dredge player in the room. A very friendly chap called Percy just dredged me in game 1, and I was like, it's one of those days. And even though I did manage to take game 2 off of Chaos Defiler and Goblin Welder, just making sure that there was nothing going on, I just couldn't quite find. It was a very close match, actually. I nearly took game 3, but couldn't. And obviously, I think maybe with a bit of graveyard hate, that would have looked somewhat different. But never mind. That's how it panned out. And then I played against Tempo, which I won, and against Forge, which I was not expecting to win because that is not a good matchup, but I did manage to squeak out a close game 3 to win it. Then I played against Oops. And then I lost to Oops because Oops is a terrible matchup for Painter regardless, because you can't combo them. And then I lost to Blue-Red Tempo in a very sort of tempo-ish way. And then I played against Oops again and lost again. So that was my tournament experience, playing against Oops twice and Dredge once. Maybe that's that's the way it goes when you register no graveyard hate. But I don't even think that necessarily registering graveyard hate would have changed it that much, because Oops is just such a bad matchup for the deck because of the way that Memory's Journey works. When if you try and combo them, they can just Memory's Journey and kill you. So you need a Blast or you need a Soul Guide Lantern, and it just becomes quite tricky. Added to which, obviously, you don't have Force of Will, so you're reliant on like Mindbreak Trap and Disruptor Flute to try and interact with their combo, and it's difficult. But so the tournament didn't go my way, but I still had a nice day in Bath. I don't think that, looking at the meta, obviously the 4 Oops players is a surprise, and I think that's because there were quite a lot of new players at the tournament, which is great. And Oops is a deck you can pick up, which is pretty straightforward to kind of goldfish and learn, and it doesn't require you necessarily to know too much about the format to win some games. Would I recommend it to a new player as a deck to take to a tournament? I'm not sure that I would, because I don't think that you end up with the sort of the legacy experience that keeps people coming back to Legacy, if that makes sense. But
yeah,
I can also understand why you'd want to reduce the number of decisions you have to make when you're coming to a format new. You know what I mean?
I don't know if I know what you mean. I know what I can understand why people would think like that. It's not a way I have ever approached Legacy or Magic. I tend to see Magic as something that I want to engage in for fun. And so I think for me, the idea of playing any event with Oops or spells, like, is just not the sort of time I want to be spending. So that confuses me, but I understand people will like things that I don't like. So
it's allowed. It is allowed, and I think my opponents did enjoy playing Oops. I mean, so I don't want to say that it's not not something. I don't think that they were rewarded for playing Oops. I think Oops had like a sub 30% win rate at the event. So
yeah, well that's what happens, I suppose. We were talking about this afterwards, and I think Oops generally has a pretty low win rate in the abstract. It might not have done in recent like high level events, but yeah, I think because people play it and they're not necessarily paying attention or they don't have a lot of experience,
sure,
that would indicate to me that the win rate might actually be slightly deflated on average from where it should be as a deck. But I am happy for new people to turn up. I think I would generally recommend people play analogous decks to what they are used to playing in other formats, but maybe they just want to do something that they know they can only do here. They're like, you said that maybe people were playing Commander, and even if people say they're playing combo in Commander, they might be playing, I don't know, Kiki Chiki Restoration Angel or whatever, which is like not the same thing as this at all. So yeah, I am surprised though, and it's something to bear in mind, I guess, when making plans for future events of this ilk. It turns out that I can go to the next. Is it the next one? I think it is the next one. Or it's
the next UK qualifier.
Up. Yeah, it's
Derby.
lining up that I can go when I didn't think I could go to any of them. So that's exciting. Yeah, I will hopefully try and reclaim a spot.
Not if I've got anything to do with it.
I would be very happy if you won, even if I attend.
You.
So
likewise, the other way around, obviously. I mean,
I think honestly, I'm very happy for anybody to win. I think you said the person who won was called Jeans in the app that was running the event.
I don't know who Jeans is, but you think you might know who Jeans is. So.
I think I know who Jeans is. I think that I don't want to dox them. So, but I know someone who has gone by the moniker Jeans in the legacy circles from time to time and plays in like that Southwest Wales area. So I'm very happy for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've always been very pleasant. So
they were playing mono. I mean, it's listed as mono red Eldrazi, which doesn't make any sense at all as a name. But obviously,
mono
it just means that which means that it's the obligator build of Eldrazi, which I think is pretty standard at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's a good deck.
But I also want to shout out the top 8 diversity, which is very cool. Breakfast, Cephalo Breakfast, Death and Taxes, Ruby Storm, Eldrazi, Reanimator, Lands, Mystic Forge, and Delver. So 8 distinct archetypes in the top 8. And yeah, Eldrazi took it down in the final against Death and Taxes. So I think the event was streamed as well, although I haven't been able to track down like a VOD or anything like that. But if I do manage to get that, I've asked around. If I get hold of that, I'll put it in the show notes so that people can go and have a look, because I haven't had a chance to see it. Obviously, I was playing the event, but I'd be curious to see how the top 8, for example, unfolded. And it's just always great when events have coverage. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see that as well. It might be that it was just streamed and not saved anywhere, but I think it also adds like an element of tension when you're playing. And if you're doing really well, you might be on coverage. And then I know Madeline actually always tunes in if I'm on coverage and says stuff in the chat, which I don't think anybody else knows, but she like really likes doing it, and she knows nothing about Magic. She'll just sit there and be like, woo, go Francis.
That's great. I love that. That's so cute.
Regardless.
Yeah, Amandine is also tuned in to coverage. I mean, when I was on feature match at Eternal Weekend, that was such a sweet experience. I absolutely love being on feature, and I've since watched that back. And it's just a fun thing. I don't know. It feels 100%. Like you just get to, because I love watching coverage of. I mean, we talked about this last time with the Pro Tour. I love watching that kind of coverage, and when the format that we love gets a little bit of that, it's really sweet.
Yeah, I also think that generally, like the people who are hosting these legacy events locally that are doing the coverage are like really enthusiastic. They're there because they love it. They're not there because they're like jaded and being paid to do something. They want it to happen. And so that also comes through often, I find. And when you're engaging with them in person, they're always like super attentive and want you to be having like a good time and like, yeah. So big props to anybody who does coverage for anything.
Yeah, and I want to shout out Bath TCG as well, who ran the event. It was a really nicely run event. The people were all super friendly. The judges were very friendly. And it ran, I mean, to my knowledge, the Swiss ran smoothly. I don't know how the top 8 went, but I assume smoothly as well. So shout out to Bath TCG, who I think this might have been their first time running an ELM qualifier, which is great.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, that's all great. So the next event, is it the 21st
of March?
In Derby. That is a Midlands Legacy Monthly event, which... yeah, I will be in Manchester like for work, basically, the few days prior, and my partner will be going to Spain for a week. So there's no reason for me to be at home. So I might as well go to Derby, which will be a delight, I suspect, to meet some people I've not met before who run those events.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about what I might play. Like my initial inclination is that I was just going to play Cephalid Breakfast because... one, I don't think anybody else thinks it's particularly good at the moment. And two, I've been playing it online and I win the majority of my matches. And it feels great. So
nice. Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, okay. I think the worst thing in the format for Breakfast at the moment is the bit where you are trapped between the choice of, do I play out my threats and they get thought seized, or do I keep them in my hand and they get thought seized, or do I play them out and they die to Orchestra Masters? And there isn't really a good answer to that question, and it's entirely contextual and can change with a top deck of a cantrip from your opponent or either card. And like that feels horrible. Obviously, there are plays you can do to mitigate that and ways you can build your deck. I think that's entirely plausible, but generally I've been very impressed. I've been playing a list very similar to what I played at Eternal Weekend, where I played like 2 Triumph of St. Catherine in the sideboard because blue-red was the tempo deck du jour at that point, and now it's blue-black, so the lifelink and like being able to manage Corey Steelcatcher is less important, so those are now Murktide Regents, which is a suggestion of Anthony's, and he, I think, top 8 at a challenge, or was it a showcase or something? I don't know. I think he's the other person who's like really thinking about Breakfast right now. AIGIS on Magic Online.
Okay.
And he hadn't played since like November last year and just like ran the same list with Murktides in and top forward the challenge. Like, I think it is like good, but yeah, so I might play that. But then there's also this new card being printed, which is set to break Legacy apart.
Yeah, perhaps. Sewer-veillance Cam is the card I believe you're referring to. From TMNT or TMT as the set code is. Yeah,
that is the card that has, I mean, I don't know. I don't really spend much time on Reddit or whatever looking at people's opinions, but I do read the local conversations and I do read and I listen to other podcasts and things, and the buzz this week has been, wow, Sewer-veillance Cam leads to lots of really busted combo lines.
So for anyone that hasn't seen it, and I think, yeah, as you said, I've not seen people this hyped to brew around a common from a standard legal set in a minute, but it is 1 blue mana for an artifact with flash. When this artifact enters or leaves the battlefield, you may tap or untap target creature, and it has 3 and a blue, sacrifice this artifact, draw 2 cards. No one in New York was going to notice 1 more cockroach is the flavor text of that card, because it is a little bug with a camera on it.
I think I just completely forgot that it had flash. Like, why? Surely this has also created another idea in my mind. We can keep talking, but I think there's another point I want to make about options we have to do with like, do we want to kill at instant speed? Yeah. But that is something people are discussing. No, so the baseline combo is that Sewer-veillance Cam and Welder, Goblin Welder, and any other artifact in your graveyard, or if the Sewer-veillance Cam is in your graveyard, are an infinite combo, because you get to tap the Welder to either weld out or weld in the Cam, and it leaving or entering untaps Welder, and so on. So you untap the Welder and you weld
back in the cam and it untaps the welder, and then you weld it out and it untaps the welder, and so on and so on and so on. So with, for example, Legion Extruder, which is 1 and a red for an artifact that when it enters deals 2 damage to any target, and you can also sacrifice artifacts to make golems, but that's functionally flavor text when you're killing with infinite enters the battlefield triggers via cam. There's also a bunch of infinite mana lines where, say you have an active Mox Opal and you just weld that in and out for the cam, you can obviously make infinite mana, and that then lets you sacrifice the cam to itself to draw a bunch of cards, and as long as you draw artifacts that you'll be able to cast with your infinite mana, as long as you keep drawing enough of those to keep being able to weld, you can keep going until you draw your whole deck. Melded Moxite also lets you draw your whole deck, assuming you have a card in hand, because that ETB discard a card, then draw 2 cards. Melded Moxite being a card that I was playing on Saturday anyway. So people are very excited to play with this card, I think. There's also, bizarrely, there's another infinite combo with Welder in the same set, which is Guac and Marshmallow Pizza. But fortunately, because it's a hideous card, it's literally a piece of pizza with a rat eating it in the art. And also it requires 2 of them to go infinite. Fortunately, that is the worst combo, we think. It costs a green and it also untaps a creature. And if you have 2, you can weld them in and out infinitely. But let's stick to Sewer-veillance Cam. And there are tons of options with what you can do with it. And people are brewing very excitedly, I think both of us included.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say I'm brewing actively. I think once you said the word intuition to me, I was like, great, okay, that's something I can solve. When the cards are in my hand, I will lay out a deck and I will start playing it. But
Sick, yeah.
I'm not usually the sort of person who will like try and craft something before I can play with it. But I know that you have been considering lists, and as have people that never play Painter and just want to share lists in our local chat, which is interesting also.
Yeah.
But I assume, given that this will be legal for the Derby event, that you might be considering that.
Yeah, so I hadn't made a decision on whether to go to Derby, and in fact I still haven't. But obviously not having won the Bath event, I'm maybe slightly more inclined to want to travel up to Derby to have another shot at winning the invite to ELM in July. So I am sort of tentatively considering going. And I think that this card being spoiled and the fact that it'll be legal for the event does make me also more interested in going, because getting to play events with new cards is exciting and fun, and like prepping for an event like that and trying to find the best list for a new combo is just, I think, one of the more fun things that one gets to do in like Magic deck building terms. So if I can make it work, I will try and come to Derby. And if I think I can find a list that plays Sewer-veillance Cam, I will certainly register it. And I think that it runs the gamut from just playing a singleton copy in a very standard current stock Painter list, which just gives you a random I win button. If it's like the lines where you entomb a Chaos Defiler with Goblin Engineer and have an active Welder, except that Chaos Defiler wins you the game some of the time, and Sewer-veillance Cam will win you the game deterministically, given some other things, obviously, as discussed.
I think the other interesting thing about Sewer-veillance Cam winning the game is that if you do manage to get a source of damage into your graveyard and you have the Cam and the Welder, you can win through a null rod effect.
Yes.
Which is amazing, really.
It's really good, yeah.
It's just so great. It's just like, oh, I've got my null rod going. You're like, okay, you're dead. That's such a powerful like axis. And not that will actually happen, but it's more that you can just threaten them. Like, yes. People will, because null rod inevitably will be good against you, because you're going to need to play a lot of artifact mana to like consistently just have Welder plus Cam be a 2-card combo.
Yeah.
Right. You want a 2-card combo with your 2/1 mana cards, but to do that you need to play a lot of artifacts. So that will expose you to null rod, but you can just win through it.
You can just win through it.
So it doesn't matter. Which, yeah, I think will change the texture of how that's played a lot.
Yeah,
it might be that blue-red ends up being more popular so that they can play Meltdown and all of that, but those sorts of second-order effects remain to be seen, and it
Absolutely.
definitely depend on the success of the initial lists, I would guess.
It starts with just trying to play it in an existing painter list, and it goes all the way out to just trying to build the most degenerate Cam Welder deck. That I think that's where quite a few people are brewing at the moment. Like, okay, I'm going to play 4 Cams and loads of artifact mana, and also, whatever I can. I mean, there are people talking about all sorts of abstruse lines involving like making infinite mana and then finding a walking ballista, and then Phyrexian Devour, Agatha Soul Cauldron, walking ballista, etc., etc. There are a bunch of ways to kill once you start looping Sewer-veillance Cam, and I think it remains to be seen what the most effective approach is. I'm certainly initially most interested in brewing it to fit into a painter shell, because I think that, as you said, having a combo that wins through Null Rod is great for a painter deck, and then having a combo that wins without using the graveyard is great for a Welder Cam deck. And the two therefore complement each other very nicely, because Welder supports the painter plan. Painter gives you some interaction in terms of blast and lets you win without the graveyard at all. You can still be a Saga deck, theoretically, although that is one of the thorny points for a lot of people. Is like, well, how do we make the mana base work? Which is definitely tricky. But those are kind of the things that one's thinking about. And then, having this kill, obviously Painter Grindstone, that doesn't use the graveyard at all, seems like a nice place to be, given that people will probably have to bring in graveyard hate to beat your Welder plus Cam combo lines, especially given that we're talking about 2 1-mana cards here. And I think that that's quite important. And also given that Sewer-veillance Cam, I mean, you noticed earlier that it has flash, which, it does have flash. And I think that it's like a pretty reasonable card. Like, I don't think that it's going to be terrible to just cast this card and tap down, their threat, make them not be able to attack you with their Baragoyf or whatever, sort of fog them for a turn, tap down their Murktide Regent, etc., etc. It's going to be a reasonable card to cast as well as a combo piece. And I think that makes it interesting.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about it the other day, I saw it's kind of like a Lorien revealed, right? You're paying 5 mana to draw 2 or something, but it kind of just sort of, it's your powerful end game that has meaningful impact early game. It just also happens to kill immediately sometimes, which is silly. I think I agree that it should be in a painter shell, as you described, though I don't know of any like infinite mana artifact. Damage-based instant speed artifacts that you could play. Like
there is one. You can play Twin Shot Sniper, because you can discard that. You can channel it at instant speed to deal 2 damage, and then you can win in their upkeep or whatever.
But I suppose if you have intuition, you don't need that anyway. It doesn't really matter. Like, you could just pass with Welder and intuition up, and if they tap out, you can just kill them in their turn.
Yeah.
So it actually just doesn't matter.
Well, intuition doesn't kill in their turn if they give you, say, the extruder, and you then have to untap and cast it. But
I see. So you have
the idea behind intuition is that you can intuition with an active Welder. You intuition for Cam extruder plus any artifact, and then what they give you is whatever, because you then cast say they give you the extruder, you cast it, and then you just start welding, and that's GG.
Is that true? If you have an LED in your deck and you can draw your whole deck and then crack it and discard it, they're dead, right? So it doesn't actually...
Well, but how are you drawing your whole deck?
How are you playing that? Okay.
You can't draw your whole deck at instant speed. You can't draw your whole deck at instant speed because the drawing your deck with Cam lines... You can if it's a Moxite line, right?
Yes.
So maybe if you get... with intuition, if you get Moxite plus Cam plus extruder...
Yeah. You don't intuition for the...
But then they can give you the Cam, which has flash, so then you do win, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. I think there are ways of doing it.
You to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what's so interesting about this card, and I think that why people are so curious to brew with it is that, like, the more you think about it, the more like, oh, you can do this and this and this. Like, it took me a while to realize that your infinite mana win con can just be grindstone in theory, because you can just keep welding the grindstone in and out and activating it once you've got infinite mana. So, like, you don't even need to play stuff that like wins you the game off infinite mana. You can just play you can just have your grindstone as well.
I think that's another reason why Painter is so good in it, right? You just play a couple of grindstones and 1 Legion extruder. And that's all you need. And Legion Extruder, like, sometimes it will matter that they have a collector roof or whatever, and you'll just get to kill it. And you can, I really have been enjoying Legion Extruder in the Emissary decks we've been playing anyway.
Yep.
So that's just a good card. You just don't have to play any bad cards other than, like, Grindstone, which is not what people normally... Well, it doesn't do a lot normally.
I agree.
But,
no,
like,
it is a bad card.
If that is, like, the worst card in your deck, and you can go and get it with a Saga, and that is your outlet for both of your combos to win the game, and you also can kill a different way, so if they have an Emrakul or a Gaia's Blessing or whatever, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all, because you can still grindstone yourself and mill your whole deck.
Yeah.
You have infinite mana on grindstone, you mill your whole deck, and then you have the extruder, and then you win that way. So
yeah, it's just completely irrelevant that they have those cards in their deck if you have the skill.
Which is sick, because, like, for such a long time, it's been quite problematic. I mean, like, the match I lost against Oops, not that Progenitus normally causes you to lose as Painter, but my Oops opponent sided in Progenitus against me, and I lost that way, just because it bought them one extra turn, and I wasn't expecting it, although I have since seen that it is reasonably common in Oops sideboards, so that one's on me. But yeah, it's great to have combos that don't lose to that kind of thing, don't lose to Emrakul, don't lose to Gaia's Blessing.
Yeah, so I guess I was saying, initially I was excited to I would just throw a stock Cephalid breakfast deck in my bag. I'm going to my parents before I go to Manchester, so I would have like a week away, not play any Magic, show up, play 6 rounds of Cephalid breakfast. Maybe it would go well, maybe it wouldn't, sort of thing. And now I'm like, maybe I should play this. maybe I should play this thing, because I have all of the cards except for, like, Sewer-veillance Cams and I guess Skateboard, which we've not talked about at all, which is worth
We haven't talked about Skateboard at all. That was the funny thing, is that Skateboard was spoiled. They were both spoiled on the same day, as far as I'm aware. But Skateboard was spoiled first, and people were already like, ooh, this is exciting for Painter. And we hadn't had any new cards printed for Painter, really. I mean, I can't think of any really impactful ones for, like, ages. I mean, obviously Melded Moxite came out in Edge of Eternities, but that's, you know, a one-of in some lists. It's hardly, like, changed the archetype fundamentally. Although it is going to be a very useful tool, I think, with Cam. But yeah, we haven't had any new printings for Painter in a good while. And then we get 2 in the same day, because Skateboard, as from what I can tell, is pretty much always an upgrade on Lava Spur boots. Would you like to read the text of Skateboard?
I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's a 1 mana artifact equipment with an equip cost of 1. Yeah. And when it comes into play, you may tap... Is it tap a permanent that your opponent
Tap
controls?
Target permanent. When this equipment enters, tap target permanent.
So you can essentially... I mean, the most obvious line for this is my construct that comes out of my Urza Saga on its Chapter 3 turn will... Oh, and it also has haste. Sorry.
Yes, importantly.
It gives it haste like Lava Spell Boots does. The main difference is this tap effect, but then you can say, haha, and very nice Atraxa, or very nice Baragoyf. Unfortunately, that creature is tapped, and I'm going to kill you, which would usually have happened anyway, and it makes Baragoyf a more manageable problem.
Absolutely.
It's great, because that card is quite annoying for Painter.
Yeah.
As is, I guess, Atraxa in play, that you can Pyroblast that. But, like, if your opponent show and tells in Atraxa and your Urza Saga comes off and you try and Pyroblast it, they might have a Force of Will. Whereas if you just get this haste equipment tap down thing into play, they can't do anything about it. Like, those things are all excellent. Like, I think something you were also telling me is that, well, the Cam Skateboard also lets you, like, tap all your opponent's permanents in their upkeep and stuff like that, which is hilarious. Because you can, like, I guess infinitely weld in and out the Skateboard every turn. So it's also just like an opposition combo with Welder Cam.
Which is insane. I mean, like, because I Lava Spur Boots, I think, is already a very good card in Painter and a very good card in, like, 8-cast, because giving your construct haste is so strong. And you've just traded the Ward 1, which, although it is occasionally relevant in constricting an opponent's mana, it rarely prevents them from interacting with your with your guys. You've traded that for this ability that is great on its own because it taps down a blocker, so you're like swinging for a lot of damage with a hasty construct lines are just way better. Plus, it has, as you said, this random synergy with Welder, where if you weld it in, you get to tap any permanent. So that includes lands, obviously. I don't really know what the flavor is for a skateboard tapping. Like, how does riding a skateboard tap a? I don't. What?
Has anyone ever ridden a skateboard over you? I think you'd feel tapped.
That's true. I
tend to see, like, when you're playing limited and you might play like a combat trick that taps something down, and it'll be like a monk, like shoving his palm into the creature's face or something. Yeah, this is just like somebody just whacking someone over the head with a skateboard.
Right, yeah. If someone, does a kickflip over you, you're gonna like duck, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're like distracted. Oh, I did. Unfortunately, I couldn't block this massive windmill or whatever, and that would make complete sense.
Yeah, I mean, the whole flavor of TMNT as it integrates with Magic makes no sense whatsoever. But then again, as some people have pointed out, like Marit Lage wearing little boots doesn't make any more sense than Marit Lage riding a skateboard. And people have done some very funny mock-ups of Marit Lage on a skateboard, which I think at this point it's like, well, the card's coming to Legacy regardless, so there's not really any point in getting upset about it. It's just got to be funny. I've also noticed something amusing about the flavor text of skateboard, which is that it reads, "Why skate a half pipe when you can skate a sewer pipe?" So it has flavor synergies with Sewer-veillance Cam.
Oh, brilliant. So what is this? Sewer's Painter.
Sewer's Painter.
Yeah.
Thames Water Painter.
Disgusting. Monopoly. Before we talk about that, we should go back to playing and talking about Magic. So,
yes.
Generally that's all like quite exciting, and I think sounds really strong on paper. So I'm very excited to see where that goes. I think I will continue playing like the Pinnacle deck at locals, but at the moment, and Cephalid is still like what I would play. So,
that's fair. I'm definitely
I love
Intuition build. Yeah, Intuition is sick. I mean, that was when I had that thought. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I actually only realized when we were talking now that like you can
just win it.
You can just win instant speed if you just get the mock site, which
they're just dead. I also don't know if anybody else has realized that yet, but you can just kill them. You just like, I have an untapped welder. Oh, I pass. Oh, you played a 3-drop. GG. Like,
which is crazy.
It's kind of reminiscent of things that maybe got banned. So we'll see. I mean, Welder is very fragile. So
Welder dies to a light breeze. Also, it's vulnerable to graveyard hate. You know.
Exactly. So I'm not really all that worried about it. It's not like Breach, where you're just like, okay, well, you can't deal with my enchantment right now, so goodbye.
Yeah.
I think it's fun, but I do have my 4 intuitions, and I would love to have some fun with them.
Me too.
So,
Me too.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
I can't remember the last time I played with intuition, but I've been one of the lovely thing for me is that I'm always obviously thinking about Painter because it's what I like to do. And I kept thinking, oh, well, I wonder if there's like an intuition build like there was back in the day. Because, Painted Stone, Blue-Red Painter was one of the very first ever builds of like Painter combo in Legacy. I mean, when Painter was printed in 2008, some people went down the Imperial Painter route and some people went down Painted Stone, which is Goblin Welder, Intuition, LED. Because Intuition gets you Painter 7, Grindstone, LED, which is a kill, end of turn intuition into whatever they give you, plus those cards with Welder in play will win you the game as well. So that was obviously pretty strong back in 2008. And so I've been just it's just been in the back of my mind, like, I wonder, and I keep wanting to play Intuition because it's a sweet card. And then they go ahead and print this. So I am absolutely delighted. I'm really excited to start getting to play with these new cards. I mean, they were spoiled, 4 days ago or something? And the spaces that I'm in, i.e. the Painter Discord and some other chats, have been abuzz, pun intended, with creativity around this little bug carrying a surveillance cam.
Yes, so I think that is very exciting. Yeah, so it's coming out on the 6th. We've still got a week or so. Is it a common? I'm now literally thinking about like how to find copies.
Yeah, it's a common. Like maybe it's a question of like going to a draft and just trying to get all the copies possible.
Yeah, there's like a non-zero chance that I will just go play some limited that weekend because of it. I think Bad Moon will run something if they've not sold out. Yeah, I have no plans that weekend, so I may just
Sweet.
I don't know, hang around and play some limited or go to Dark Sphere or whatever. I will be at Bad Moon the weekend prior for a different sort of Magic event.
Yeah, we've been playing a lot of Magic recently because you've been wanting to test this format that neither of us had ever played until this point. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so Bad Moon Cafe in London near Borough, from what I can tell, for a couple of years have been running like a monthly budget Modern event where your main deck price cannot exceed $25 TCG player mid, and your sideboard cannot exceed $10, which is intriguing from somebody who used to play a lot of Modern 12, 13 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ooh, can I play with my fun cards from then? Turns out, no. But it is like a more interesting space to think about than I might have expected. I think it was brought to my attention by like a friend of my cousin's or something. And I was like, oh, that's like quite close to where I live. I'd like to go do that. So I'm going, on the 1st of March to play this event. So shout out to them.
Sweet, yeah.
It's pretty cheap, and I think you get a beer or a coffee or something as part of your entry. So, that really tells you the how seriously this event is going to be taken. I'm very excited for how not serious it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I like, my first inclination was to build like a flicker deck with like Wall of Omens, because I used to play a lot of Wall of Omens like based Kiki-Jiki decks. But Kiki-Jiki's too expensive, so I was like, I'll build this value deck, and immediately got run over by Jasper just putting all of the best humans in a deck that cost nothing now. And I was like, well, maybe this isn't the right power level. And so I built Dredge. Now something that's interesting is that there are no results posted online for this at all. I don't know if this event is run anywhere else in the world. So there are occasionally like people on Reddit who are just like, I'm going to a local event, and it sounds exactly like the same event that I'm going to go to. And there's like no lists or anything.
Yeah, it's totally open.
Which is
really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I've not played an event where I have no idea what to expect in ever. Maybe since I started playing like Standard. So that's kind of cool. I expect people will have Graveyard Hate because Leyline of the Void is like 50 cents and Rest in Peace is the same. So that's going to be tricky. But the Dredge deck I've built is like the Phoenix Lava Dart Dredge deck from Modern, if people are familiar with that. So it's a Faithless Looting deck.
And it's pretty strong. It goldfishes. I mean, obviously, I'm not currently scheduled to attend this event, although the more we talk about it, the more I've played it, obviously helping you test stuff, the more curious I am if I can try and make it work to come along. I don't know if I can, but yeah, it's a fun format. And I mean, the Dredge deck in testing was goldfishing pretty quickly. And, there is great Graveyard Hate you can play, obviously, as you said, but it's very powerful. Like you are getting to return a bunch of Phoenixes on like turn 3 quite often.
Yeah, well, I've mostly been testing it just in the Modern tournament practice room, which is a really entertaining space anyway. I never really play in anything like that. Like I always I'll just load up a league and play a terrible deck in it, like if I want to test. Because people don't just like disappear because they get bored, which is annoying when you're testing. But for this, I was like, it's really not worth like paying to play this event deck. And also because it's Dredge, I just want a goldfish. And if someone else is there, then great. And so you queue into someone and they're like, I'm playing Modern, but Uro is unbanned. Whatever. You're like, okay, whatever. I think that was in the freeform room. And I noticed that room. I was like, okay. And then I soundly killed them on turn 3 twice after they'd tapped out for Uro or Red and 6. And I was like, yeah, cool. Nice deck.
That's very funny.
Yeah. And obviously the deck on paper, the problem with that deck is the mana is very difficult because you need to be playing a lot of cards with the type Mountain, but you want to be casting your black spells like Dark Blast, and Blood Crypt is expensive and fetch lands are expensive. So you're playing the Battle for Zendikar check land where it checks for basics. What are they called?
Tango Land.
Tango Lands. Yes, takes 2 to tango. God, I remember people getting so upset about that. Oh, I'd forgotten all about that. People got really angry on the release. They're like, it's a silly name. You can't call your lands Tango lands.
I never understood that. I loved that name. I thought it was hilarious. And some people were like, what? No, I will not be having in my serious... I mean, those people surely have quit now that we've got skateboards. But
Yeah, they were like, this is the beginning of the end. What will things be like in, 11 years? Will people have skateboards and Magic?
Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm playing those, and I'm playing like 2 sulfur springs with the little devil in a little sulfur bath, which I love. But obviously those are not mountains, and yeah, that's the worst bit of the deck, I would say.
Yeah.
But that was level 1, and then I thought, I like playing like grindy mid-range combo decks. I'd like to build like a Thopter Sword shell.
Sweet. Love Thopter Sword.
Yeah, right, okay. And then I was like, I could play Thirst for Knowledge, and I thought, people play this like food shell in Modern. So they play Asmarana, Mardika, Diced, Kuldakar. And
nailed it. Well done.
And they that was the first take. And they also play like that whole shell is one thing together. So the Underworld cookbook and whatnot, and you can discard your Oval Chase Daredevil. So there's like a little engine of making food and killing your opponent's things, but obviously you can also discard Sword of the Meek, and like play a kind of grindy mid-range slow combo deck with Kappa Cannoneer as well. And that's been really fun too. I played some games with that against our friend Alex, who was testing like Collected Company with a load of different 3-card combos that come together and gain you infinite life or make infinite squirrels or make creatures infinitely big. And versus Alex, I think it was maybe an earlier iteration of the deck. We were sort of trading blows quite well. Like if I got Asmo into play, then that was pretty bad for him, like basically lights out. But his deck was quite quick, and once he comboed, I had no recourse. Like, I had no actual kill unless I already had like a Kappa Cannoneer in play. But then when I tested against you online with a slightly updated build of his, I think I'd lost almost every game. So I'm interested to see what other people are doing. There's just no way of seeing that at all.
I'm super curious. I'm super curious. It's just interesting to get to build something new and use some cards that normally you don't get to use.
I'm somewhat shocked at how cheap so many cards are. Like Emery is less than $1, and all of this Asmo food stuff is like Modern Horizons cards. A lot of it is rares, all super cheap. And so much so that deck gets to play like 4 Dark Slick Shores and 4 Underground River, which are like $2 each or something.
Wild.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing that you did with that deck, although I don't think you're playing Cauldron Familiar anymore, is that you returned a Cauldron Familiar to play mid-combat and it equipped a Sword of the Meek
from the graveyard
and blocked a Dragon's Rage channeler.
Yes.
And this was a grounded channeler, obviously, and ate it. And that
Surprise
was a lovely screenshot.
Surprise
cat with a sword is a great screenshot. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I have since cut the like cat oven stuff from the deck. I don't know if it'll make it back in or not. I haven't quite settled on a 75 for that. I've kind of locked in a 75 for Dredge, and then
good fallback.
Yeah, like if I can't work out a list that I really like for the Asmo food sword deck, then if you are coming, I'm happy to lend that to you if you want to play it. Like if you decide last minute, I'll just play Dredge and you can play the fun artifact pile.
Well, sweet. It's a fun thing to think about. I think all of this, I'm very enthusiastic about brewing in any format. So it's just interesting to talk and think about.
And I think like I would 100% just play more Modern if I had more time to go to paper events, but the place that runs it is a solid hour away from my house, and doing that more than once a week is too much. So it's like not going to happen. But yeah, like Modern has always been intriguing, and I'm interested in playing it more. But there's just no reason to for me at the moment. But we will see. Yeah, so that's I guess the next sort of legacy and other events upcoming. I don't think there's anything else to shout out other than there are locals at Darkseer on Thursdays if you live in London, and we'd love to see you. They've been going really well this year, actually. They've had a real resurgence. We've been getting, like 12 people every week, which
is great.
We moved to Darksphere maybe a year ago from Rogue's Quarter, the previous venue, because we noticed that, like, because other Magic events weren't running at the same time there, the people who were playing at Rogue's Quarter, like, just dwindled, and there were never any new players, basically, because there was no like exposure. And I think being at the bigger shop has meant that like over time more people have
and also proxy friendly does help. Obviously, Darksphere is playtest card friendly, and that makes a huge difference.
I want to be specific there. It's playtest card friendly for Legacy. It's not for its other events.
That is a very good point.
I think it's also been like that. I think that precedent was set by CEDH, Competitive Elder Dragon Highlander, because somehow that community seemed to break the no proxies rule at real events. I don't understand how they managed to do it, but they did. And obviously Wizards doesn't like upsetting Commander players, so there's a loophole that exists for them that I think Legacy players are also now getting to utilize. So
I didn't realize that, actually. Interesting.
Yeah,
I should have said it is the Legacy event is proxy friendly. So come along if you're in London or if you're visiting London. It's always great to see new faces. I was delighted to play against a couple of people at the ELMQ who were new, and to play at the local. I spoke to a couple of people for whom it was their second time at Darksphere to play Legacy, and that is wonderful.
Even if you're playing Uxor spells, we'll be happy to play against you if you're new.
Yeah, but only if you're new.
I think that's
great. That about wraps it up. Brings us to the end of episode 6 of Eternal Horizons. Thank you very much for listening. Please do follow us on Spotify or YouTube or wherever else you get your podcasts. Leave us a comment or a rating if you're so inclined. Tell us what we've missed about Sewer-veillance Cam or Guac and Marshmallow Pizza or Skateboard, or if you hate all of them, tell us that. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.